What is room temperature? Think about it with me for a second. It's the temperature of the room you're in, right? But how are you feeling right now? Maybe a bit too hot, a bit too cold, or just a little sticky? And what's your thermostat set to? Maybe around 21 degrees Celsius? Finding a room temperature that makes a building feel comfortable turns out to be a fiendishly complicated task. It can involve your gender, national origin, the season, and even whether you hate your job. In fact, scientists and engineers get a little bit hot under the collar trying to identify the perfect conditions for our indoor spaces. Is anyone else warm in here? Alright, so let's talk about why we need to care about room temperature. It's because life in industrialized societies involves being inside a lot. And architects and engineers need to design buildings that are comfortable to be inside for lots of different people at the same time. Whether it's a school, an office building, or a shopping mall, people have to want to be there, just at least a little bit. And combine that with trying to manage heating and cooling costs, well, you've just got a whole pickle on your hands. The same number on a thermometer doesn't feel the same to everyone, and it creates a delicate balancing act. In fact, there are entire research journals dedicated to this effort. During the development of this episode, we read more papers out of one called Building an Environment than reasonably ought to exist. You gotta love the things people will just build a whole field out of. Now, of course, that also means there are so many studies that you can almost always find one that contradicts the one you're reading. So I'm gonna try to present general trends here, but they're general. In theory, finding the right room temperature is pretty simple. You basically want to maximize the number of people who say they feel neither too hot nor too cold, and minimize the number of people who say, well, actually, this kind of sucks. I mean, there are equations to the moon and back, and not everyone even agrees they work, but theoretically, that's what you do. It's worth noting that most of the literature refers to people's comfort temperature, or neutral temperature, rather than room temperature, with the goal being to make the room temperature match the comfort temperature. It's not rocket science here. But an interesting thing arises because people are people, and a huge number of factors influence our perception of temperature that no engineer can control. Gender is brought up frequently in these discussions, and maybe you're picturing office environments where the men are comfortable in shorts as the women shiver in sweaters. And some studies do find a difference in temperatures preferred by men and women, but not all of them and not across all cultural backgrounds. Studies in Israel and Pakistan, for instance, didn't find much difference in preferred temperatures between men and women. The most interesting study we found shed some light on the influence of both gender and national origin. They surveyed people working at an office building in Tokyo, where Japanese and international workers were present side by side. And apparently it was a pretty uncomfortable place to be because only 26% of them thought the temperature was fine. The researchers broke up the responses by both gender and national origin, Japanese or non-Japanese. And the widest gulf was between Japanese women and non-Japanese men, with the women feeling comfortable a whole 3.1 degrees Celsius warmer, which sure makes it seem like both culture and gender can play a role in how we feel about temperature. And while the authors of the study said they couldn't account for certain things, like men wearing heavier business suits, how we dress is also related to both culture and gender. If you're trapped in some sweaty office all day, that might make you hate your job. Conversely, if you hate your job, that might make you rate your office building as being less comfortable. One study of an open office building in the US found a strong link between job satisfaction and satisfaction with the quality of the indoor environment. That includes temperature, but also stuff like lighting and background noise. But that difference doesn't show up in all studies. Still, if you find you're always sweaty at work, maybe try asking for a raise. Time of year can also influence our comfort temperature. In particular, we seem to put up with higher temperatures in the summer. This can be as much as 6 or 7 degrees in buildings without climate control, but even with the AC blasting, we might still prefer it a degree or two warmer in the summer. Interestingly, one study of homes in the United Kingdom asked people to rate indoor temperatures as warmer or cooler in summer and winter. And they rated interiors as being warmer in the winter, even though it was slightly cooler. The researchers think this was because people were comparing their indoor environment to the outside. You know, like At least I'm in here where it's warm. Which suggests that even though the thermostat could be set to 25 Celsius year-round, that still might feel different to us at different times of year. Humidity also affects our perception of temperature. In one study where the researchers were able to control the temperature and relative humidity, participants rated rooms as feeling warmer when the humidity was higher. This was especially true at higher temps. The researchers suggested that especially in regions with cold winters and hot, humid summers, building engineers might want to account for humidity when setting temperatures. So when you put it all together, what does this all tell us? Well, my perfect indoor temperature is not going to be the same as yours. My perfect indoor temperature isn't even going to be the same in January as it is in July. And that means you can't just design a building, set the thermostat to 21, and brush the dirt off your shoulder as you walk away. Now, one obvious answer is to let a building's users adjust the conditions, which is a perfect solution that has never started any fights in the history of the world. But it's also just interesting that there's so much more to a comfortable room temperature than the number on the thermostat. Room temperature is actually informed by a bunch of different facets of our experience as humans. And that's just cool. Or is it warm? Or should we bump up the AC in here?